Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Today here on the channel, we're going to be doing a quick review of some of the big time games in the NFL from this past Sunday. But before I get into that, let me quickly say, in case you have not heard yet, that Virginia Tech fired Justin Fuente earlier this week. Now, he was on my list of coaches on the hot seat heading into the 2021 season, so I'm not surprised by it, just like I wasn't surprised when LSU fired Ed Orgeron. But at the same time, honestly, I'm surprised it took this long because he's been there 6 years, and they're consistently about a 7-win team every year. They don't do any better, and they very rarely do any worse. They pretty much win 6 or 7 games every year. And he's supposed to be an offensive guru, an offensive genius, but their offense just continues to spit and sputter every game, every year. If you remember, this year, back in week 1, they beat North Carolina. Now, of course, North Carolina is nowhere near as good as the pundits thought they were going to be, but still the Hokies scored 17 points. And as the year has progressed, we've seen how pathetic North Carolina's defense is. So for the Hokies to have only scored 17 points against them shows you how embarrassing their offense is. And then that makes it worse for Fuente, who's supposed to be an offensive genius. And then also on top of that, you have Hendon Hooker, who spent all that time with the Hokies under Fuente, and he never got any better. He finally transferred to Tennessee and didn't even start the year as their starting quarterback. He started the year as second string behind Joe Milton, but of course Joe Milton couldn't get the job done, so Hendon Hooker got the job. And in about 6 weeks, he already looks leaps and bounds better than he was in all his years with Virginia Tech. So we'll sit back and wait and see who the Hokies hire as their next head coach. Clemson offensive coordinator Tony Elliott is supposedly in the running, but Tony Elliott now supposedly is in the running for every single head coaching job that's out there. But so far he has shown no interest in any of them, but he does say he will one day be a head coach. So is Va-Tech the job he's looking for? We'll sit back and wait and find out. Tonight on the docket in college football, we have Louisville at Duke. Now, of course, Louisville is trying to get bowl eligible on the season. We've already had a lot of college football this week. There was 4 games on Tuesday night and 3 games last night. And tonight in the NFL world, we have the Patriots going up against the Falcons. And speaking of the Falcons, they got demolished this past Sunday by the Cowboys. And I'm not surprised the Cowboys won, especially since the Cowboys had been the best team in the NFL for about a month and a half. And then 2 weeks ago against the Broncos, they just laid a complete egg and looked pitiful. So I knew they were going to come out mad, angry, and ready to play. But if you remember, these two teams played last year, and it was one of those games where the Falcons looked like they had it in the bag. And in about the last 3 minutes, they just fell apart and lost the game. And that is supposedly one of the games that caused Dan Quinn to lose his job as the Falcons head coach, because they just couldn't close out games. But the Cowboy game last year was one of the worst ones that they looked like they had won until the very end. And then we have Cam Newton, who looked great. I know it was only one game, and you can't get excited because it's one game, but as good as he looked, it would not surprise me at all if he was the Panthers' starting quarterback, as long as he's healthy for the rest of the year, whether Sam Darnold is healthy or not. And we have the Seahawks, who got shut out by the Packers. Now, the final score was 17-0, but it was 3-0 at halftime, 3-0 after 3, and then the Packers scored 2 touchdowns in the last half of the fourth quarter to win the game 17-0. But it's the first time in Russell Wilson's professional playing career he's ever been shut out. And I think it's clear now that after this season, Either we're going to see Russell Wilson leave Seattle, or we're going to see Pete Carroll leave Seattle. Some general managers choose to stick with the coach, and some general managers choose to stick with the quarterback. Now, I don't think Russell Wilson wants to leave. Supposedly, after last year, his agent was saying he wanted to leave, but Russell has never came out and said he wanted to leave. So you really honestly don't know. But I know Seattle is generally a playoff team, but ever since their Super Bowl run, they pretty much go and get put out in the first round almost every year. But this year, I don't think they're even going to make the playoffs. So if you think Pete Carroll is going to be the one that's gone, please feel free to let me know. If you think Wilson is going to leave, please feel free to let me know. And then we have the Browns, who just got manhandled by the Patriots last Sunday. Now, a lot of people now are saying the Browns need to go ahead and let Baker Mayfield go, because I know he wants a long-term contract, but in my personal opinion, he has done nothing to deserve the long-term contract. Now, I guess it depends on how you look at it, because since 1999, until they got Baker Mayfield, in that almost 20-year stretch, the Browns had 4 times that they drafted a quarterback in the first round, and 3 times they drafted a quarterback in the second round, and none of them worked out. None of them were there longer than a year or two. Some of them wasn't even there that long. So if you look at Baker Mayfield's numbers and you compare them to Tim Couch or, Deshaun Kaiser or any other, loser quarterback they've had in the last 20 years, well, he's great. You want Baker to stay. But if you look at Baker Mayfield's numbers compared to every other average to good quarterback, he's a little bit below average. I think he's right around 20th this year in overall quarterback stats and all that kind of good stuff, and 20th is a little bit below middle of the pack. So he's actually not even an average quarterback. But if you compare him to the other quarterbacks they've had in the last 20 years, he's great. But if the Browns can get Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, then I would say go ahead and go get them. But if you can't get any of those guys, or even maybe Aaron Rodgers, if he does actually leave Green Bay, then you might be better off giving Baker one more year and letting him show you what he's got, and letting next year be his moneymaker year and decide whether he gets a contract or not. And we have the Titans, who are now 2-0 without Derrick Henry. Now, of course, we all know the Titans are a better team with Derrick Henry, but at least they are showing now that even though they did depend on Derrick Henry way too much, they can find other ways to distribute the ball besides giving Derrick Henry the ball 35 times a game. And it may even benefit them, because he says he'll be back in the playoffs. And now, of course, they're 2-0 without him, and their division's so bad it's pretty much them and the Colts, and that's it. And they're better than the Colts with or without Derrick Henry. So if Derrick Henry gets a 2-month wait and then the playoffs come around, he may be even better in the playoffs. So this may actually be a long-term benefit for the Titans. And then last but not least, we have the Rams. And I shouldn't even bring it up, because if you would have asked me before the season started what I thought the Rams were going to do, I would have had them at about 10-7, maybe 11-6, somewhere along in there. It's so amazing to me how this was a team that made the Super Bowl just a couple of years ago. So it's not like they were a bad football team. They were not. Now, is Matthew Stafford an upgrade from Jared Goff? Yes, probably so. But if you look at every other elite quarterback in the NFC, whether you want to look at Aaron Rodgers or if you want to look at Dak Prescott, it doesn't matter. They're all better than Matthew Stafford. He's probably about the 5th or 6th best quarterback in the NFC, which means come playoff time, the Rams are going to be about 5th or 6th, which is maybe a little better than they were with Jared Goff, but not much. I wouldn't pick Stafford over Rodgers. I wouldn't pick Stafford over Prescott. I wouldn't pick Stafford over most of the quarterbacks in the NFC, mainly because Matthew Stafford's all-time record against teams that have winning records is like 9-70 or 9-71, something like that, which tells you that when Matthew Stafford plays a good team, he loses. So while the Rams fans thought, oh yeah, we got Stafford, we're a Super Bowl team now. I don't know. What has Stafford done to ever make you think he's a Super Bowl quarterback? I ain't seen it. Now, like I said, I think they're better than they were last year, but I don't think they're all of a sudden going Super Bowl. I'd probably pick Kyler Murray over Matthew Stafford, even though he's only been in the league for a couple of years, just because I don't trust Stafford in big games. He's never given me a reason to think he's a big-time quarterback. Even before the season started, I said that Matthew Stafford and Matt Ryan are stat stuffers. That's all they do. They'll go out and have 500 passing yards and throw 4 touchdowns, and they lose. That's all they do. That's all Stafford's ever done. That's all Stafford's ever going to do. He's a stat stuffer. He'll put up big numbers, but when he plays a good team, he puts up big numbers, and he loses. That's what he does. But that's my quick review of some of the games from the NFL this past Sunday. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Did you hear about the 2 mummies who farted at the same time? They had a toot in common. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.